All right, folks, gather round, let's talk civics. It's how your government works. Yeah, I know, sounds boring. But trust me, it's important stuff. Think of it like learning how to drive. You wouldn't hit the gas without knowing which pedal makes you go, right? Same goes for being a citizen. You gotta know the rules of the road, how laws are made, who's in charge, sort of. Otherwise, you're just along for the ride. And who wants to be a passenger in their own democracy? Not me, and hopefully not you. So buckle up, Buttercup. We're diving into the wacky, wild world of US government. First things first, the US government is split into 3 branches. Think of it like a 3-legged stool. Each leg is important. You take one away, the whole thing collapses. You end up on your bum. Metaphorically speaking, of course. We've got the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Big words, I know, but don't worry. We'll break them down one by one. Each branch has its own job, its own little corner of the government sandbox. And just like kids in a sandbox, sometimes they play nice, sometimes they throw sand in each other's faces. It's all part of the fun. Let's start with the executive branch. This is where the president hangs out. You know, the big cheese, the head honcho, the one with the really, really big desk in the Oval Office. The president's job is to enforce the laws. Think of them as the principal of the United States. They've got a whole cabinet of advisors, like secretaries for different departments. They've got the military at their disposal, and they get to sign bills into law or veto them. It's a big job with a lot of responsibility. But hey, at least they get to live in a pretty sweet house. Next up, we've got the legislative branch. This is where things get a little messy. The legislative branch is all about making laws. And who makes the laws? That's right, Congress. Now, Congress is divided into 2 parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Think of them as 2 rival teams, constantly trying to outmaneuver each other. The Senate is the smaller, more exclusive club. Each state gets 2 senators, regardless of size. The House of Representatives, on the other hand, is all about population. The bigger the state, the more representatives they get. So you've got these 2 groups arguing and debating, trying to get their bills passed into law. It's a slow and often frustrating process. But hey, that's democracy, baby! Last but not least, we've got the judicial branch. This is where the judges hang out, the ones with the black robes and the gavels. The judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the laws. They decide whether laws are constitutional or not, and they settle disputes between states, people, and even the other branches of government. The big kahuna of the judicial branch is the Supreme Court. 9 justices appointed for life get to decide some of the most important legal issues facing the country. It's a powerful position, to say the least. Section 6 elections, the people's choice, sometimes. Now, how do these folks get into office? Well, that's where elections come in. Every 4 years we have a big ol' election for president. It's a whole thing with primaries and caucuses and debates that seem to last forever. The candidates campaign across the country, shaking hands, kissing babies, and making promises they may or may not keep. Then, on election day, Americans go to the polls and cast their votes. The candidate with the most votes, well, sort of, wins the presidency. It's a complicated system full of quirks and loopholes. But hey, at least we get to pretend we have a say in who runs the country. Section 7, political parties, elephants, donkeys, and the 2-party system. Now, you can't talk about elections without talking about political parties. In the US, we have a 2-party system. That means 2 main parties dominate the political landscape, the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats, represented by the donkey, are generally seen as more liberal. The Republicans, represented by the elephant, are generally seen as more conservative. Now, these are just broad generalizations. There's a lot of variation within each party. But for the most part, these 2 parties control the levers of power in the US government. Section 8, the Constitution and Bill of Rights, America's Rule Book. But wait, there's more. Underneath all the branches and elections and political parties, there's a document that holds it all together, the Constitution. Think of it as America's rulebook. It lays out the basic framework for how the government is supposed to work. It's over 200 years old, but it's still the supreme law of the land. And attached to the Constitution are the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. These are some of the most important rights that Americans have. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, you know, the good stuff. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the foundation of American democracy. Section 9, checks and balances, keeping the branches in check. Now, the founding fathers, those wig-wearing dudes who wrote the Constitution, they were a clever bunch. They knew that too much power in one place was a bad thing. So they built in a system of checks and balances. This means each branch of government has ways to limit the power of the other two branches. For example, the president can veto laws passed by Congress. But Congress can override the president's veto with a 2/3 vote. The Supreme Court can strike down laws that it deems unconstitutional, and so on and so forth. It's a beautiful, albeit complicated, system of shared power. It's designed to prevent any one person or group from becoming too powerful. And that, my friends, is the US government in a nutshell. It's a messy, imperfect system, but it's our system. And understanding how it works is the first step to making it work better for everyone. So stay informed, stay engaged, and for goodness sake, vote.